every 10 years of our lives can be either the most amazing 10 years, or you can look back and it can be the most devastating realization that maybe I could have done a lot more, or I should have done this, so on and so forth. So I wanted to do a series. This is called Reddit to Real Life, where I have real conversations. I pick out a Reddit post and kind of just have a conversation about it. I thought this would be a really good idea to look at other people's positions in their lives and kind of give my experience and maybe help some people out there who are going through a similar situation in theirs. Now, I'm not going to reveal obviously the names of these individuals that are posting. I'm going to keep that anonymous, of course, but I'm going to read the questions. I'll kind of break down their description and what they say about it, and then we'll just kind of have a conversation about it. So, in this post that I pulled is in the self-help subreddit, and the question is, or the statement reads, I'm in my 30s. I've been a fuck up my whole life. I don't even know where to start to turn things around. So some of the context is I'm in my 30s. I've been a fuck up my whole life, and it never seems to get better. Even when I make the right choices, I somehow fuck it up. I suffer from bad hyperhidrosis, social anxiety, and I was just recently diagnosed with ADHD. I've been unemployed for years. I'm also in steep debt. I have no clue where to start or even turn things around. I don't have any support from my family or friends, and I can't even figure out how to get my head to focus. So there's a few things to unpack here, and a lot of this stuff, I mean, some of the main reasons as to why this individual may have been struggling for quite some time. I'm not a medical professional or anything like that. I don't have ADHD or hyperhidrosis or anything like that. I have been unemployed. I have had I've been in not steep debt, but I'm familiar with having debt over our shoulders from school. My wife's been to school. She's got 2 bachelor's degrees. So I want to touch on this, though, in lieu of the question, okay? You're in your 30s. And so obviously, from my perspective, again, not a medical health professional, but I see through some of the comments here is like a lot of people sharing their experiences with medication to directly help with ADHD. ADHD can be hyperactivity. It can be not being able to pay attention, a variety of different prognoses that people can have if they are diagnosed with ADHD. So it sounds like you got to get that figured out. If you're someone who might feel like you have ADHD or have symptoms of ADHD, certainly you should just take, there's a lot of there's like a questionnaire, a health questionnaire that you can take, or go see your doctor. Just never hurts to just get tested, right? So a lot of that stuff, again, I'm not so qualified to really touch on. I can't recommend medications or anything like that. I can recommend, however, things that could help you for free, things that obviously take effort and time that, I've helped coach other individuals on. That's like nutrition, getting your exercise in, finding healthy ways to keep your brain moving in the right direction. So I would recommend those things as well. And again, start with that stuff. 100%, you need to go see a doctor. You need to take a questionnaire to see which one of those categories you fall in for your ADHD, and start there. The next big thing is obviously this individual mentions that they've been unemployed for years. And so obviously I'm hoping that you've attempted to get a job. There's a lot of jobs in the market right now. Since 2020 happened, there's been a huge migration of jobs where people, obviously, because of the whole situation around that year, I'm not going to touch on it specifically, but all that stuff really shifted a lot of working professionals into other positions based on what the requirements were being outlined by the government at that time. And so now more than ever, there's never been more opportunity to get into a career path without really having a degree. And I went to school. My wife went to school. She's very educated. I'm more of an autodidact. I want to learn as much as I can on my own, and try to find every opportunity to do so and be self-educated in that way. And so self-education is going to be a great start too. But anyways, I recommend starting with exercise. You got to find ways to get some of these things corralled for yourself. The anxiousness, the anxiety, exercise and getting your diet right is going to help. Now, obviously, you said you're unemployed. I don't know if you're living at, if this person's living at home with their parents, if you find yourself in a similar situation, take care of the small things that you can take care of. And for exercise, it's just getting a walk in, once a quick 10-minute walk will help you enormously. There's studies out there that show that that's actually the case, and it's a great starting point. Nutrition, just try to eat the best you can until you can. But as far as a career goes, like I said, there's never been a better time to really get into a career path that you can get into a really good paying job. And people are hiring right now, and employees aren't the greatest right now. I mean, there's the employee marketplace. There's an open ocean of people that companies are looking for individuals, and all you really need nowadays is to just show up. Obviously, you need to work hard, but even for people that don't give 110% at work, if you're giving 90, 95%, there's a place for you there. And so if you find yourself being able to get to job interviews and you have opportunities lined up, you got to use some of these small things to help catapult you. And again, if you're not able to get this ADHD medication or whatever it is you need to really corral these symptoms in for you, and you're not going to be 100% right off the gate, but if you can get into obviously a job, get into a career that you're going to enjoy, or at least somewhat going to enjoy, and I tell people this all the time. If you have dreams, right? I've got dreams. Hopefully you have dreams. If you're watching this video and you have aspirations and you're working a 9 to 5 job, most of the time that 9 to 5 job isn't going to be the thing that you want to spend the rest of your life doing. That's fine. The thing with that though is in that 9 to 5 job is there's always something that you can take away from that job that will help you in that next step in your journey. And again, it doesn't have to be directly correlated to whatever it is that you're aspiring to be or aspiring to do. It doesn't really matter because there's always something. Nowadays, it feels like there's not a lot of people who want to take that little extra initiative and go take any industry. I was in food service industry for a long time. So restaurants, cook, food service, all that kind of stuff. At the end of the shift, mid shift, doesn't really matter. Sweeping, cleaning the grill, taking out the garbage, the little extra things that a lot of people don't like to do or take that little initiative because, that mindset is, well, I don't get paid to do that. I don't get paid extra to do that. That's above my payroll. Those are the kind of things that people say. And to put it straight to you and be transparent with you guys, as I always am, I have gotten very far in being one of the very few people early on when I started my professional career who volunteered for the things that no one else would volunteer for. And I had to put aside my pride and the desire to say, pay me more money and I will do that for you. No problem. It takes a lot of, motivation is not even the right word. It takes a lot of, I don't know what the right word is, what I'm looking for that, but it takes a lot for someone to say, I'm not going to get paid for this. I'm probably not going to get much recognition for it, but I'm going to go do this for the company. And instead of looking at it for the company, look at it for yourself. If you're trying to advance in your career, if maybe you're in the job that you want and you're starting entry level and you want to try to make it to whatever said position, you're only going to be able to do that by working harder than the next person. And if you're like me, and there's probably many others out there like me, you're not going to be the smartest person. You're not going to be the most skilled person. I've gotten into a lot of entry level jobs because I interview really well. Recently just went through the interview process and, got the job offer today, and I'm qualified for it. I wouldn't say I'm highly qualified for it. Definitely have 7 months to a year's experience as a production supervisor, been a production manager, been a production lead, been all the things. I've got leadership skills that are highly transferable. But when you look at it on paper, if you took someone's resume versus mine, how you're going to stand out in organizations nowadays is there's not a whole lot of people with great communication skills. The ability to display information in front of people, a company who's looking to hire you. And that's a skill. So there's a lot of things, again, go off on side tangent there, but there's a lot of things that you can do to help progress you forward while you're working towards fixing ADHD, if you have high anxiety, any other things that you feel like high debt. I mean, just based off all that, like obviously you get a job, you're going to fix, 90% of your issues right there. Is it going to fix your ADHD right away? No, but at least if you get a job, you can at least try to hyper focused on trying to stay busy doing that thing. If you're, when you're at home and you don't have a job and all you're doing is, looking at, you know, a lot of social media and a lot of these things highlight the worst that's going on in society. And that's a very daunting thing because you look up and it's like everything is crap, if you look at it from that perspective. And there's a lot of good out in the world. There's a lot of things going on that can help you become the person that you're trying to be. And if you're in your 30s, you're still super young. If you're an individual in your 20s, in your 40s, 50s, 60s nowadays, it's like the life expectancy is only going to get higher and higher. So people are living longer. And the goal is now to try to live healthier. So there's a few things that you can do for free. Again, mentioning walking, getting a little bit of exercise in every day is going to help you progress towards getting your mental health back into at least a format or, at least ground zero, like that equilibrium to balance out so that you can go into an interview and feel like, hey, I can actually sit through this and I can eloquently tell you my story. Like I said this in my interview last week. The last question I did a panel of 6 individuals. The last question I got asked was, you got 30 seconds to give me a sales pitch as to why I should hire you. And quite simply, I just said, I've been pitching myself to employers, to companies for the last 15, 20 years. I started with no skills. I didn't have the greatest upbringing in terms of like my father and my mother giving us the skills to succeed in life. I've had to do a lot of this on my own. And I'm always the person who gets to the very top of what you can do in whatever position it is, whatever company it is. I'm the guy for this position. And that right there is the mentality you have to have. Everything that you do, think of it as you're pitching why it is that you're going to be the person. And I don't like this phrase too much because it's kind of like, it's an old military phrase, and don't know if it originated in the military, of course, but it's fake it till you make it. Put yourself in the shoes of the person you're trying to become now, that kind of thing. And there's some validity to that. Also, you're not always going to be, it could be like, okay, if I'm pretending to be this person, some individuals might think it's like, a little bit weird to pretend you're something that you're not yet. But I think that mentality goes a long way. And so you got to pretend you're the person that is going to be the most successful job. There's a fine balance of like having the pride and dropping the pride, having the confidence and keeping the confidence low enough where you don't allow them things to counteract some of the things you got going on for you. So that's a lot to unpack there. But the basis of this question, this series that I'm doing here is going to be more free flowing, just kind of talking through some of my experiences. And, I'm 35. And like I said, 30s are now the new 20s. I mean, I seriously believe that. And if you can find ways to get your mental health in the right spot. And the thing is, guys, there's always going to be something. Okay. I've got videos that I just recently did breaking down seasons that you're going to have in life. And you're going to have those and maybe it's every 10 years, it's a new season for it. It really just depends on what you got going on in your life and how you're progressing towards your goals and, what's going on with your family, so on and so forth. And so for me personally, I just had my second kid. I've got my firstborn is almost 2 years old. It's going to be a season of no sleep, interviewing for another job. So I'm doing a job transition, probably looking to acquire a business. There's a lot of things going on in my life. Obviously, I'm dedicating time to talk with you guys and hopefully, my experiences and my messages and the conversations that we have back and forth help to reach at just one person, help them overcome some of the difficulties that I've experienced in my life. That's the ultimate goal. And so for me, no, I don't want to be a production supervisor for the rest of my life. It pays well, but that's not my ultimate goal. Being an entrepreneur, being able to provide for my family better than I ever could have imagined is going to require a lot of sacrifice. I mean, success for people always looks like the most glamorous thing in the world. But when you take the time to really study how these guys got successful, you don't see the many, many, many years of hard work, and dedication and sacrifice. That's the key, guys. Sacrifice. As I just outlined to you guys, I'm looking to transition into a new job, similar position, but a different job, looking to acquire a business. That means the family time is going to not be there for a while. And that definitely burdens me. It puts a little bit of strain on my shoulders and a little bit of strain on my heart because I love being with my family. I want to be with my family. And some of this job change for me is going to give me a little bit more freedom than that. It's a little bit less of a commute for me. But in the end, I want financial freedom for my family. I want to make sure that I can provide in ways that will allow my wife to stay home with our kids so that we can do all the things that we've talked about the last 10 years. And as I get closer to my 40s, the goal is the next 5 to 10 years is to be very close to that, if not already there. And that's going to require a lot of sacrifice. And so I don't want to keep going down and just regurgitating the same points because it's going to be very easy to do with some of these topics because, again, I addressed probably more of the main things. But if you're in your 30s and you have some similar situations as this, things like ADHD or some symptoms of it, if you have high anxiety, if you have high debt, if you struggle to maintain employment, there's a lot of things that you guys can do. Obviously, a big one is you got to get your mental back into some form of good shape. That's probably the most neglected thing right now going on in society we have a mental health pandemic, and it's more debilitating than probably any other pandemic that you can possibly face. I believe that because even though we are in the most amazing time to be a human with all the things that we have, like social media, the internet that's connecting us to billions of people worldwide, whereas before, you lived in a small town in Wisconsin and you had, not that you had no idea what's going on across the world or even across state lines, but it was smaller. And so now we're more connected to humans than ever before. And there's something about that. I really believe that. So take some of these things that we've talked about, and listen, guys, don't just take my word for all of it. Do your own research. Test what is going to work out for you in the long run. But at the end of the day, based off what this individual is saying, if you feel like you've been a fuck up, if you don't know where to start to turn things around, start with your mental health. Start with your physical health. Get your nutrition going. Start getting some exercise in. Maybe you have a job and maybe you just absolutely hate it. Listen, you're not going to, there's way more jobs available that you can do that is going to bring you some joy. But at the end of the day, sometimes you're going to have to stick it out and just try to find the best of it until you find the next best thing. What can I learn now in this position, even if I hate it, that will help me get the next position that maybe offers a little bit more pay, that maybe has a little bit more freedom, whatever it is that you're looking for. There's a lot of things out there with remote work. And there's just so much, guys. You got to tailor it to your lives and what you're looking for. But what you can't do is sit behind a computer screen or your phone or sit on the couch and watching TV, knowing that you have no job, knowing that your mental health is probably all out of whack, knowing that your physical health is all out of whack. Maybe you're fat, maybe you're not fat, but you're still completely out of shape and you've got no energy, and all these things matter. They matter. And the more you go and tell yourself that they don't matter, or that you can continue doing the same old thing and expect a different result, we all know what the definition of that is. I'm not going to say it because you should know it. So, first episode of this series. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Drop a comment down below. Where are you guys at in your life currently? Are you in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, and maybe you're rocking and rolling, right? Maybe you have some advice for some of these individuals who struggled, like I did when I was in my 20s and my teens, even in my early 30s, right? Just finally starting to get this momentum back and start to really compound on that momentum so that I can be the best version that I can be for myself, for my family, that God has called me to be. So Jot those down in the comments, guys. I look forward to creating more videos like this. They'll get a little bit better. I got a little bit sidetracked with just some of the thoughts, but really appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you in the next video.